I used to run a plastic surgery company.
You did not?
Yeah,
Seriously?
for years. Yeah, I had a facelift there the other week.
Are you serious?
It looks amazing, doesn't it?
You look gorgeous.
Yeah, 6,000 dirham.
What? That's it?
Yeah, I get a handbag for that.
Can you run comedy shows without sponsors?
That's why I've got no money, hence why I'm doing a podcast.
All right.
Gail Clough of The Laughter Factory.
Yeah,
Okay. How are you?
I'm brilliant.
Fantastic. We're going to dive right in and ask you some questions.
Oh,
Got
lovely.
my notes here. So please tell me about your comedy journey because you are a pillar of the comedy community. Okay.
Well, it was 27 years ago, and I was living in Dubai as a DJ, and there was no nightlife. It was just couples in bars murdering. Oh, what was it? Hotel California, Black Velvet. It was like the same half a dozen songs every time you went out. And I just needed something different to watch, something different to look at. And me and my business partner, Duncan, started the Laughter Factory. That was the only reason. You know, it wasn't a commercial venture.
Okay.
It was the first one in the whole region, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was in the Hyatt Regency over in Deira, in a massive hookah bar called what was called the premiere. It was called the Premiere.
Question. When you say hookah bar, do you mean like shisha or you mean like the other thing?
No, the proper ones.
The proper one.
Yeah, and they kicked us out in the
What
end.
was the name of it again?
It was called the Premiere. It was like the biggest grossing account bar that the Hyatt had, and one of the biggest grossing accounts in the world.
Oh, wow.
And all the hookers used to stand outside on the street, queuing up, waiting to come in, waiting for the comics to finish. And they,
So the comics
The
can
comics
finish.
yeah, like wait for the comics to finish. And they were losing so much money from the hookers because they used to pay more to come in and come in 2 or 3 times a night. And, you know, everything, so they chucked us out in the end and the hookers won. Good for them.
My childish mind
We
is
were on their
non-stop.
turf and they kicked us off.
You know what?
Julia Roberts.
You know what? Good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So many questions. Okay. So over the last, let's say, 27 years,
Yeah.
you've written loads of comics.
Yeah.
Who is your favorite comics to watch and to book?
Frankie Boyle, I like dark humour. He was very young when we had him, but he's my favourite comic to watch. And he was young and lovely, and yeah, it was fantastic.
Okay. All right. And besides them, like, who would you like to watch that you haven't booked? Who would you like to book?
There was a comic that I had booked by the Comedy Store years ago, and I told them that they had to unbook him. I've only ever done it with one comic, but he's my favourite comic, Jim Jeffries. Again, very dark, but we're talking before he took off, probably 15 years ago. And that was too much for Dubai at that point. I mean, he came to the Opera House last year and smashed it. If he was on my bill now, I wouldn't have a problem with anybody. But the market was very different then. It'd probably be still comparable with Saudi now, you know. So I used to sit there at the back getting quite nervous about what people were saying and doing then. I don't worry now.
Okay, so the scene's changed a lot.
Yeah,
tell me, what do
massively.
you think? How do you feel about the Dubai comedy scene?
I think what's been brilliant, even though the lockdown was a terrible thing for us and for most people, but one good thing that came out of it was people watched a lot of comedy. They became a lot more comedy literate. People came out of that bubble of, if you're British, I watch British comedy, and if I'm American, I watch American comedy. I think people's tastes have become a lot more diverse. They've opened their minds. Okay. And they'll go and see something different. And that was one good thing. And I think Dubai is kind of at the forefront of that, really, because it's a melting pot in terms of comedy. It's an emerging market, and it's a really exciting place to be.
Okay. And then what kind of advice would you give for new comics trying to crack?
I would have always said before, having done some courses and got involved with courses, stage time, stage time, stage time. But what I've noticed recently is comics going from being very bad to being very slick within a 2-year period. And you wouldn't have seen that before. It was a 7-year period for everybody. Very few people cut corners. Jason Manford was one, Kevin Bridges was another, but they started when they were 17.
Okay.
Jack Whitehall was another who started very young. And I think anything you start young, you know, it's like swimming or riding a bike, you just take to it quicker. But they were the exceptions. Everybody else had to put that time in of like treading the boards, and it didn't seem to be a shortcut for many people. Now people can go on courses and get very good very quickly.
Is it just because of the courses or other things?
Yeah, because I think they've got techniques that we didn't have. You know, before you just got up there and you just kept getting up there and you were making the same mistake for years.
And you wouldn't know what
You wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Now, as well, with video cameras, that's another big thing. People couldn't video the shows before unless you got onto TV, and you had to be good to get onto TV. So there's a lot of things that have made it easier for comics to get better quicker, which is amazing.
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense.
And you had Stephen Grant over recently to
Yeah.
perform.
Yeah.
But also he gave a course, and I remember he's like some of the stuff that he taught us.
Yeah.
I felt my performance was like at least a 6 month
Exactly.
better.
Yeah.
Right after.
Because you don't just work it out yourself. I mean, that's the whole thing about life and anything, isn't it? As humans, that's what we're here to do, help each other get better at things, you know?
Yeah.
What was your favorite part of that workshop, though?
I liked the part when I actually got on stage and then he got off and told me all the things that was wrong with my act and how I could improve it. Because that's about you then, isn't it? Me.
If you had to have dinner or hang out with any 3 people, dead or alive, who would you choose?
Oh, dead or alive? Right, okay. I know people always say Jesus Christ and Gandhi to this question, don't they?
Some people
do. Mine would be Oscar Wilde.
Okay, why?
He wrote the best books. He went to prison. He was a homosexual and was persecuted in prison. But while he was in prison, I've read all of his books, and he was the one who created most of the prison reforms that have sadly rolled backwards, because I believe you can see how a society is by how it treats its most depraved and difficult people. I think you can tell everything about a country by its prisons. And he got British prisons from being Victorian times. He died very shortly. I think he died when he came out because he was treated so badly in there. But his books enabled so much change. Probably George Bernard Shaw, he's another early socialist, and Charles Dickens, because he threw a light on poverty in Victorian times. And I think, unfortunately, people are heading back in that direction again. And I think if people read more Dickens, maybe we wouldn't head back in that direction again. I'm talking about in the West now.
Okay.
So I'd love to meet those 3 guys, yeah. Because they created social change.
More Dickens.
More Dickens, yeah. More hard times.
Jesus.
All right, can I just,
Started with hookers and we ended up with Dickens.
cycle of life, isn't it? So speaking of jail, do you
Yeah.
ever bail any of your comedians out of jail? I know. It's good.
I've been lucky. I haven't had to. I've been lucky up to now, but never say never.
All right. Do you have
Yeah.
a favorite one that you saw from underdog to stardom?
Michael McIntyre, yeah. I mean, I like darker humour generally, but it was really nice watching his career grow, and it was nice that he created the Michael McIntyre Roadshow to give back to the industry, to give up-and-coming comics a platform, and it helped so many other comics. I think maybe Kevin Bridges came around from that, and maybe, no, I think they were already established, Jason Manford and Kevin Bridges, but they all came up about the same time. But I know doing that was a great thing. And also Manford, he has comedy clubs all over Britain, and he tries to bring up the kind of talent that I work with, you know, people that have got a profile, but they're not on TV yet. And he does a lot to nurture those. He really does care about the industry, and he likes to put back into the industry rather than just take from it. I think the people who have longevity in our industry, same as any industry, you have to put back in. It's like a farm, isn't it? You've got to put seeds back in and watch it grow. You can't just take. Otherwise you will run out of tarmac eventually.
And everyone wins when there's more comedians on the scene, obviously.
Definitely, because the standard goes up.
Yeah.
And also it makes people want to go to comedy more, you know? It makes people want to come out more when they're watching a better class of comic.
Yeah. You bring in a lot of comics, mostly comics from abroad.
Yeah.
I'm sure all of them ask you the same question.
Yeah.
What can and what can't I talk about
Yeah.
in the Middle East?
Yeah.
So if we package this next minute
Yeah.
and send it to them, what advice would you give them when they're performing for the Middle East today?
Now, I'm very proud of the fact we don't censor the show. I mean, I went to see Jimmy Carr last year at the Comedy Festival, and that was great because obviously that's for the powers that be. And if they're okay with Jimmy Carr, then they can't say anything about anyone else. So that basically means we're free here to do what we want. I used to tell them when we first started, don't do anything about religion. But I couldn't stop them. It was a waste of my time. I was in those days driving a brand new Jaguar, had a luxury flat, and had 4 fantastic holidays a year. And I used to just sit there crapping it, thinking, my lifestyle's going to go out the window here. I realised I couldn't control it anyway. You can't control comics.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I love about them.
But we're not going to
I could do with going to prison. I could do with a roof over my head and 3 meals a day.
Free rent for a while.
Exactly.
Why not?
I just treat it as a yoga retreat.
Till the market comes down
Yeah,
again.
exactly.
Free rent again, yeah.
For the local scene,
Yeah.
your stage is like the dream.
Oh, that's lovely to know.
But you still the stage that all the comics want to be on.
You
What
said
does
to
it?
go. You said to go for it.
Yes, exactly.
That's my goal for 2024.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, book him. خلاص يعني.
Yeah, oh,
Too much?
Yeah.
Subtle much, bro.
Sweep it up.
Like honestly, one of my goals
Yeah.
was to do it
Yeah.
within a year,
Yeah.
and I did.
Oh, congratulations.
Well, thank you. But
Yeah.
the question is, and everyone
did it?
asks, what does it take to get on the Laughter Factory stage?
I need to see you locally having consistency. You know, it's about consistency because it's just a price point. You know, it's like any products and service, you know, that you're selling. You know, it's about consistency, isn't it? That's why people drive flashy cars, because they don't break down. You know, and because I'm charging 160 dirhams, which used to be such a cheap night out. Can you believe 160 dirhams was a throwaway, nothing night here? I need to be sure that they're laughing all the way through it. I didn't need to make sure of that before. I could take my chances and have all kinds of people and experiment so much more than I can now. Now I need consistency. I need to know somebody's not going to bomb up there, basically.
But
Yeah.
there's a light at the end of the tunnel, right? Like
Yeah.
you see that there's more and more people in the local scene potentially being that fancy car that doesn't break down.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Exactly. That's exactly what has happened. And that's great for me. 2 reasons. Obviously, I'd have to pay for flights, but also it gives a fresh perspective because people love hearing stuff about Dubai, and the international acts can't really ever get a grip of it in the short time that they're here.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the international acts, a big part of your work is traveling the world
Yeah.
and finding those people.
Yeah.
Did you make those connections with all the big comedy producers, the important comedy clubs around the world, the actual comedians? Some of them are your like closest friends.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, we were booked by the Comedy Store in London, which is still considered to be the best club in the world, for 20 years. That's a long time. That's 20 out to 27 years. So
But what do you mean booked by them?
they used to book our lineups, not me. So I can't take credit for that. They did an amazing job for 20 years. So they sent me all of the talent. And then after 20 years, I just knew everybody myself. I knew, and of course you could watch videos. Videos is a really dangerous way. I've slipped up badly though with videos because what's online is always the best. And I've probably slipped up from videos maybe 20, 30 times.
Oh, wow.
And I've slipped up booking comics from videos. That's again where my experience comes in, because when the other comics start telling me, like we had a guy who was brilliant last month, he's already a star, he's going to be a huge star, but he wouldn't post anything in case he got cancelled.
Who is it?
Jack Skipper.
Why do I know that name? Jack
Yeah, he's
Skipper.
just coming
You
up
had
now
him.
last
You had
week.
him over.
And he couldn't post anything in case he got cancelled. I was like, I've got somebody who's like properly famous in my club, but he's been going 2 years. He's like an English comic called Mickey Flanagan. He's very similar.
Yeah.
And he is as good as McIntyre, any of them. He is brilliant. And he's a carpet fitter. I'm trying to think who I've had recently that's brilliant. A guy called Scott Bennett is another one. He wrote a lot of Peter Kay's show. he just doesn't tick the diversity boxes. You know, now in the UK, they want a mixture of people, which is right. You know, I think, you know, white males had it too good for too long. And now that things have changed, they want more women involved. They want a mixture of nationalities. They want a mixture of ages. Middle-aged white guys have lost that stranglehold on the comedy industry, which is a great thing.
Hallelujah.
But, you know, Jason Manford told me, he said, and Peter Kay told him, and he told me, whatever hours you work in your day job, you have to work that in your comedy or you won't succeed. All the guys, I can see a very clear difference between the guys that became famous, like your Dara O'Briens, your McIntyres, your Mickey Flanagans, your Jack Whitehorse, and the people that are still doing the circuit. There's one clear difference, it's their work ethic. A lot of the time they weren't the best comics that we booked. They weren't, but they had a different work ethic. They would be in their room writing. More importantly, if I would say to them, would you want to do this podcast? The others would be like, well, what is it? What is it? You know, I'm going to the beach tomorrow. These guys wouldn't even ask me what it is. They go, I'll be there, Gail. You know, just a different work ethic. I heard that Jerry Halliwell was like that in the Spice Girls because they were a talentless bunch. I mean, come on. I could sing. I heard one of them once. Apparently the one who could sing, whichever one that is, was asked to sing Happy Birthday. And she couldn't even sing Happy Birthday. I know. But the thing with the Spice Girls was it was Jerry Halliwell. She was a business, you know, I call them business comics. They're business comics.
Gotcha.
They get up and they show up.
Just gotta get up and show up.
Show up, do your stuff, you know. And you, not every interview is going to do anything, but can I be a bit crude? I think it's like throwing shit at a wall. Some of it's going to stick, and you don't know which bits are going to stick. But if you don't keep throwing the shit up against the wall, none of it's going to stick. And that's how I think people that are successful, probably at most things. And then after a while, of course, like Jason Manford, when he comes here, that's quite interesting because his management want to know what he's doing literally every second. And like, because I only work with Jason, who is actually famous. All the others, I work with them before they're famous. So working with him for me is a massive learning curve. And I'll be like, oh, we've got a podcast and can Jason come on it? And his management will go, Gail, what time? And I'll go, Monday morning. And they go, what time? And I'll go, oh, about 10 o'clock. They go, Gail, we need exact times. But that's how his day is managed. Now, I would have...
Structured.
I couldn't cope with that. Like, I'm not that good. Like, but that is how the famous people... And I think when the people that are deciding... This is just my opinion, and it's nothing that anybody's told me. But I think when the powers that be are deciding who's going to be famous, it's a lot of money and a lot of investment. I know years ago in the music industry, it used to be £1 million to manufacture an act that would create a one-hit record. And if you didn't make that number one straight away, that was that £1 million written off. So they're very careful about who they invest that in because it's a lot of money. I don't know about comedy, but I'm guessing it's a similar thing. They're watching for who will do that and who will be able to do that. I wouldn't be able to get up in the day and have every 15-minute slot of my life from list ones. I think it's between 20 and 30 of the acts we've booked are stadium acts, like your Russell Peters and your Jack Whitehorse. When I look back, they were all structuring their day like that themselves.
And themselves, they already had that mindset.
Yeah, so they're probably workaholics. As well, everybody know who abuses the drink, who abuses the drugs. Even back in the day before social media, everyone knew who was a trash head and, you know, who was out drinking at the show and all the rest of it. The big players, you know, the big people would never recruit those people because they know they're harder to manage. They don't want to see their investment go. The industry's become, I think generally, whether it be music or comedy or any of it, it's become just too serious now. And the really talented people don't get through.
Without the work.
Because, well, they've probably got a drink or a drug problem or a sex addict or something. They don't get through now. Because the powers that be are just watching them. Like years ago, remember, like, bands used to like chuck TV sets through windows, didn't they? You know, you never see that now.
It was expected.
Exactly. No wonder I'm nowhere. I couldn't pick a telly up.
But you've recently started to take the stage yourself. Why is that?
I started out of sheer anger when I was locked up. When I was locked up in the lockdown. In prison. That's that's my next stop. And I just, I was just saying earlier, like that, to Mick Dad, one of the other comics, I was just saying that comics know that they're going to die. They know they're going to die so many times. So I started my very first gig. We're in Rashid Hospital, terminally ill ward, to the cancer patient, because I'm competitive and I wanted to die first. I had a friend actually who was dying of cancer, so I went to, that was my first ever comedy gig ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, Danny is passed now, sadly, Nothing to do with me.
Do you have, a lot of people don't know this about you.
Yeah.
You have a musical background. You're a DJ.
Yeah, but it certainly isn't singing.
It's not singing. But instead of just asking you questions, we're going to play a game.
Okay.
We're going to play a game called the word association game.
Yeah.
I'm going to say a word or a statement or a name, and without thinking, say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
All right? The Berlin Wall.
Yeah, it was a great, that was the first time I got to play different music that I'd never heard before. People think the big song of the Berlin Wall was the Scorpions' Wind of Change, but it wasn't. It was a goth band from Austria, and it was called Crucified, Army of Lovers. And it was the first time that I'd played different music that wasn't club music. The first DJ over the Berlin Wall foreign DJ into Berlin and East Berlin, and it was a gig that no one else wanted. It was freezing cold. I had to take my own vinyl with me, and DJ's vinyl is everything. You just couldn't go out and buy it again, and I was really nervous about my vinyl getting lost or stolen on the way. And what was interesting when I got over there, the local DJs were using cassette tapes, and they used to have like a pen that they used to shove in the hole and speed it up like that and slow it down, and that was how they mixed. And I took vinyl over, and the club was full of DJs all watching, because there was no internet then. This was, I think it was December 1989 when the Berlin Wall came down, and there was DJs standing around watching me mixing and playing. And what was really nice was that one of the towns that I played in, which was Leipzig, produced the highest paid DJ in the world, Paul van Dyk. Yeah, he's not been the same since Mary Poppins left him.
It's Mary Poppins. The Sultan of Brunei.
Yes, yeah, what can I say without getting executed?
It's up to you.
Oh, I saw Joe Rogan talking about him the other week, so that's probably okay. Yeah, worked there for a year.
What's there?
In Brunei?
In Brunei, lived and worked in the palace with the family. They were very nice. They really looked after me, yeah.
As a DJ?
As a DJ, yeah.
In-house DJ?
I was the in-house DJ,
that's
yeah. They had Whitney, Jacko, Celine Dion.
I'm sorry, Whitney?
Whitney Houston, yeah.
Oh, you just like threw it out?
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
Like Whitney, yeah.
Proper
okay.
name dropping now,
Jacko?
yeah. Michael Jackson. Yeah,
Wait,
when
you
they
met all these people?
She's like Jacko.
I didn't really meet them, but I did work with them,
You DJ'd for them?
Yeah, I was the DJ,
For the,
yeah.
For the Queen, Whitney Houston, and the King
Yeah,
of Pop.
I was the DJ. I was the royal DJ, and because they didn't want a man near the women, so I was there for a year. It was quite a boring job, but it was very, very hard work, yeah.
Working with Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson.
And everybody's Salt and Pepper, Barry White, yeah. They used to have all of these huge names.
Salt
in.
and Pepper.
Yeah, do you remember?
Of course, push it. Yeah, this is my childhood.
My favourite
Barry
was
White.
Barry White. He brought his entire Love Unlimited orchestra. I think it was something like a 50-piece orchestra, all playing Love Theme on the edge of a cliff. It was one of the best moments of my life.
So what kind of events? Is it birthday parties or like...
Every day, every night. They used to have dance classes in the day and then parties at night. And,
I think the Prince came as well.
No, he was the only one who turned them down. Everybody got offered millions of dollars, and the only artist to ever turn them down was Prince.
Wow.
The only one, because all the others wanted them. It was like they were probably earning millions of dollars anyway, but it was probably 10 times their fee. And Prince was the only one that wouldn't go. I always remember that.
Amazing.
And I remember booking my friend instead. It was a total catastrophe because Prince wouldn't turn up. And because they were so confident they were going to get him. And I ended up booking this stage hypnotist who absolutely bombed. I mean, talk about bombed. Oh, and I'll tell you something that's worse than bombing yourself, because trust me, I bomb a lot, is watching someone you've booked bomb. That's worse. It's like watching your child do it, because you've recommended it. You're responsible. Trust me. And you hear the aftermath. The person who's bombed goes.
Yeah.
You're there dealing with it. Yeah.
Female comedians, female identifying comedians.
Yeah.
We've known that historically there weren't that many.
Yeah.
Recently, there's been a surge of successful female comedians. Why was it a problem before, and why is it better now?
It was a numbers game, I think, and also I think women there was always that, when I was growing up, there was always that shame attached. You know, I mean, if you're going to be funny, you've got to do kind of slutty jokes. And I think women were just always worried that if they did that, they wouldn't get a boyfriend, they wouldn't get a man. And I think other women used to police women for men, and I think it suited guys to have that amount of control over their women, not just their women in general. They don't have that control anymore, which is brilliant, you know. Sorry guys, you've lost it.
Love it.
Don't look at me.